Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Joan Vassos and Chock Chapple start next chapter together. Viewers saw Chock Chapple propose to Golden Bachelorette Joan Vassos on the season finale. Now the two are ready to start the next chapter of their lives together. Golden Bachelorette winner finally explains his unique name. Many viewers thought of Chock Chapple as the frontrunner on the Golden Bachelorette, but many had questions about his name. Chock isn't a name you hear very often. He was finally asked about it during an interview with Glamour magazine after the Golden Bachelorette season ended. As fans suspected, his real name is Charles. He told the outlet that his mother didn't like Chuck as a nickname, so she called him Chock instead. However, he wasn't sure how his mother decided on that specific nickname. Joan Vassos and Chock Chapple start next chapter together. Joan Vassos made it clear from the start of her season that moving out of Maryland was not an option for her. That's where her children and grandchildren are based, as well as her job as a school administrator. However, she changed her mind after getting engaged to Chock. Now they plan to live in New York City together, at least part of the time. The rest of the time they will split between Maryland and Kansas, where Chock Chapple owns and operates an insurance business. Joan Vassos took to her Instagram on Friday, November 15, to share the next step. She and Chock were on a flight to New York City. She said that they plan to start looking for an apartment in the Big Apple. However, they aren't rushing into marriage just yet. The sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple as Joan Vassos locked the door to her boutique for the last time. Vassos Vintage had been a cornerstone of the small New England town for nearly 2 decades, a place where locals found one-of-a-kind treasures and heartfelt conversations. But tonight the boutique stood empty, its shelves bare and its sign packed away. Joan leaned against the cool glass of the storefront, a bittersweet smile playing on her lips. "That's it, Chock," she said, turning to her longtime partner, Chock Chapple. He was leaning casually against her car, his signature fedora tilted just enough to shield his eyes from the setting sun. Chock grinned, a playful twinkle lighting up his face. "One chapter closes, Joanie. Time to write the next one." Joan chuckled softly. "Easy for you to say. You've been waiting for this for years." "And so have you, deep down," Chock replied, walking over to her. He took her hands in his, calloused from years of woodworking and playing guitar. "You've been talking about change ever since we met. Now's the time to embrace it." Their story began 5 years ago at a local arts fair. Joan, with her carefully curated stall of vintage finds, had caught Chock's eye as he strummed his guitar nearby. His melodies had drawn her in, and his quirky sense of humor sealed the deal. They were an odd pairing. Joan, the meticulous curator, and Chock, the free-spirited musician carpenter, but they balanced each other perfectly. As they stood there now, on the cusp of a new adventure, Joan felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Where do we even start?" she asked, leaning her head against Chock's shoulder. "With a road trip," Chock said without hesitation. "We've got that camper all ready to go. Let's hit the open road and see where it takes us." Joan pulled back, raising an eyebrow. "You mean your camper?" "I've never even slept in it." "Exactly why this is the perfect time to start," he teased, pulling her toward the car. A journey begins. 2 weeks later, the couple stood in their driveway, bags packed and the camper loaded with essentials. Joan surveyed the vehicle with a mix of amusement and wariness. It was a classic Airstream, polished to a mirror-like shine, with Chock's Wanderlust painted in elegant script on the side. "This is cozy," Joan remarked as she stepped inside, taking in the compact kitchenette, the tiny sleeping quarters, and the carefully mounted shelves filled with Chock's books and tools. "Cozy is code for charming," Chock said, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Don't worry, I made sure there's room for your treasures too." Joan smiled despite herself. "All right, Wanderlust. Let's see what you've got." Their first stop was a sprawling flea market 2 states over. Joan couldn't resist the allure of vintage clothing racks and antique trinkets, while Chock busied himself at a woodworking booth, exchanging tips with the local artisans. By the end of the day, they had a new set of memories, and a few too many treasures to fit comfortably in the camper. "You're supposed to be downsizing," Chock teased as Joan tried to squeeze a vintage lamp into an already full cabinet. "It's called curating," she shot back, sticking out her tongue. building something new. As the weeks turned into months, Joan and Chock found a rhythm to their travels. Mornings were spent exploring small towns, afternoons immersed in local culture, and evenings under the stars. Chock often pulled out his guitar, serenading Joan with songs he made up on the spot. One night, as they camped near a serene lake, Joan turned to Chock with an idea. "What if we start something together?" "Like what?" he asked, plucking a soft tune on his guitar. "A traveling boutique. We could combine our passions, my love for vintage and your talent with woodwork. Imagine a pop-up shop with unique finds and handcrafted pieces, something that changes with every town we visit." Chock set down his guitar, his eyes lighting up. "Joni, that's brilliant. We could call it The Road Less Traveled." Joan laughed. "Of course you'd go for the poetic name." "And you love it," he countered, pulling her into a playful hug. The Road Less Traveled. Within weeks, their idea took shape. Chock converted a section of the camper into a compact yet charming shop. Joan curated a collection of vintage clothing, jewelry, and home decor, while Chock crafted wooden bowls, picture frames, and whimsical sculptures. Their first pop-up event was at a small town festival, where they set up shop under a canopy adorned with fairy lights. The response was overwhelming. Locals marveled at the unique blend of old and new, and Joan's eye for detail paired perfectly with Chock's rustic craftsmanship. "This is it," Joan whispered to Chock as they packed up for the night. "This is the next chapter. Didn't I tell you?" he replied, his grin as wide as the horizon. Lessons on the road. Of course, life on the road wasn't without its challenges. There were flat tires, missed turns, and the occasional disagreement over space, or lack thereof. But each hurdle brought them closer, teaching them the value of patience, compromise, and humor. One particularly rainy night, as they sat huddled in the camper, Joan sighed. "Maybe we were crazy to think this could work." Chock handed her a steaming mug of tea. "Crazy? Absolutely. But the best things in life usually are." She looked at him, her doubts melting away. "You're right. Besides, I wouldn't trade this for anything." A legacy in motion. As the seasons changed, Joan and Chock's reputation grew. Their pop-up shop became a sought-after attraction, drawing visitors from miles around. They started a blog to document their adventures, sharing stories of the people they met and the treasures they discovered. But for Joan and Chock, success wasn't measured in sales or social media followers. It was in the laughter shared over a campfire, the joy of creating something together, and the simple beauty of waking up each morning with a sense of purpose. As they stood one evening on a hill overlooking a vast expanse of wilderness, Joan took Chock's hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For showing me that the best chapters are the ones we write together." Chock squeezed her hand, his smile as steady as ever. "Here's to the next one, Joni." And with that, they turned toward the horizon, ready for whatever adventures lay ahead.